And we're gonna try to give everybody time to come in. Welcome, welcome. I think we have another student that just came in. Hi, is your name Kirsten? I don't think she can hear me.
Or she's shy.
Oh yeah, or maybe sometimes people don't know that their mic is muted too.
Hey, you're breaking up, but I can hear you now.
Hey, how are you?
I'm getting you.
Good, good. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Can you say it again? I didn't hear you.
Oh yeah, I was just asking if I was pronouncing your name right. Is it Kirsten?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. We'll begin started probably at around 3:05. So we're just gonna let everybody start to come in and we'll get started.
Okay.
Okay, welcome to some of the people that just came in. Hey Kristen, I see you just came in.
Hey Serena, hey everybody else.
Hi.
Hey. We're gonna try to get started at 3:05. What I'm thinking is that students is just gonna start, kind of rolling in. Um, but yeah, we'll try to give them enough time to come in, and then in a few minutes we can kind of go ahead and get started if that's all right.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, good afternoon. Is it Raheem?
Yep.
Hey, Raheem, I have talked to you via email before, haven't I?
Yeah, you have.
Yes. I'm happy you made it today. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Um, I was just telling everybody that just came in that we probably gonna get started at around 3:05. So,
Yeah, that's all
y'all
right.
yep, yep. So
It's nice to put a name to the face.
I know, right? I can't see your face though.
Oh, hold on. Is my camera on?
Yes, I can see you now.
Hi.
Hi. I know a lot of these events and meetings and things that we be having is always virtual. So I never really get to know what y'all look like and unless you have your cameras off or unless there's some sort of like event for the Detroit Promise. And I'm like, oh, I've talked to you via email before.
That's pretty funny. All right. Well, it was nice. Well, it was nice meeting you for once. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
somewhat, right?
Mhm. Yeah, informally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, if you attend the Detroit Promise events, sometimes I see students, they might pop up there. So I don't know, we might get to see each other in person one day, but it's
Yeah, I
still
see
nice.
that there was a Detroit Promise DTE event. Was
Yeah.
it this last Monday? I wanted to go, but I had work. I'm at work right now, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they let me, go to the side and just join this call real quick.
Nice, nice. Yeah, there was the DTE event for preferably for STEM students. And I believe that was either Monday or Tuesday, but it was at the DUTA
Monday,
headquarters. Monday. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, did you enjoy it, Langston?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to like
Man,
make any connections? I heard they was gonna have pizza there too.
It was mainly
that's funny. That's funny.
Well, they didn't have
Nah,
pizza.
no, all they had was
What?
chips and Capri Suns,
You
it's better than
lying.
nothing, right? It's
and
better than nothing.
water. I mean, I guess, yeah. It was better
Y'all
than that.
lying.
No? Mm-mm.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. At least they had something though, right? So
Yeah.
the most
And then,
important part is that y'all was hopefully able to network, grab some emails, some telephone numbers, to get connected. So
I did find one person I was interested in. I did get his email and all that.
that's what's up. That's what's
Where were
up.
you?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, look, Monday I had so many meetings. Monday, this week really has been really busy. And usually like sometimes like I'm on campus, it depends. Sometimes I go in on Mondays too, but I'm usually there throughout the middle of the week. But so many student meetings, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna have time to transition from this 3 o'clock. Then we gotta head here and head there. So yeah, unfortunately I
On.
wasn't able to make it, but
I was hoping to see you.
yeah.
Finally meet you in person.
I know, right, Langston? We gotta sometimes like we have these graduating ceremonies for the students. And so I know for Jackson College, y'all ceremony is gonna be next May, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think right around that time we usually have something for our Detroit Promise students. So more than likely I will see you because you are going to be a part of the Detroit Promise graduating class. And once we have those events to just celebrate y'all and recognize the students that's going to be graduating within that class, I'll be able to see you. So we'll have our time.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody, y'all. We're gonna get started. Thank y'all so much for joining on time and being prepared. My name is Serena. As many of you might know, I work with the Detroit Promise initially as a campus coach, but most of you know me for working with our graduating and our transfer students. And many of you I have actually been talking to periodically throughout the year because y'all will be transferring pretty soon. Oh, thank you, Kristen. Yes, our Detroit Promise graduation is going to be Friday, June 6th. So be on the lookout. So she should be sending more information about that for all of our graduating students. So Yeah, the purpose of this session today is pretty much to make sure that y'all have all of the necessary steps in order to have a smooth transition from your 2-year to your 4-year. So what I'm going to be doing is basically advising y'all, pretty much giving you a step-by-step of some things that you should really be focusing on between now and your transfer date. So make sure that you know you can take notes. If you have any questions, we're going to try to save those for the end of the meeting. And yeah, we're going to get started. So I'm going to first start off with some of the schools that we partner with. So once you are transferring, or once you decide that you want to transfer from your 2-year, so whether you're at Schoolcraft, Jackson College, OCC, I know we have some HFC students here, some Macomb students, some WC3 students, don't matter, as long as you are at a Detroit Promise 2-year, you now have the opportunity to transfer to one of our 4-year institutions and get your bachelor's degree. So here is a list of all of our partnering transfer institutions. Now, one of them is not on here, and that other one that's not on here, I believe, is Olivet College. And we're supposed to begin some updates, because that's one of the good things about the transfer scholarship, is that we're constantly partnering with new schools. So this list right here is a list of all the current colleges, but we also have some other colleges that we're starting to kind of get into the groove with. So say, for example, we looking at Wayne State University. In order to transfer with the Detroit Promise Scholarship, you have to meet a certain amount of requirements to get the scholarship. So if you're looking at transferring to Wayne State University with the Detroit Promise, you have to have a 3.0 GPA and 58 credits or an associate's degree by the time you actually transfer out. And so this is not updated, but you can actually enroll in either the fall or the winter semester. And you can also get your last 2 years covered. So you do your 2 years, say, for example, at Schoolcraft College at OCC, and then you decide you want to transfer and do your last 2 years to get your bachelor's degree. Now, something important to pay attention to this, what I always tell students, and I'll talk about it a little bit more throughout the presentation, but the 58 credits. So we're looking at just an example for Wayne State University. 58 credits. If you are going into a specific program, that might actually be different. So say, for example, if you're a nursing student, there's probably certain classes that need to be transferred over to Wayne State. So if you're attending Schoolcraft College as a nursing student, Schoolcraft might not have the same nursing classes that Wayne State has. So that's something to pay attention to, which is why once I advise our transfer students at least a year in advance, it's important to have those conversations with your academic advisor about what classes are going to be transferable and what is going to help you meet these requirements. Now, sometimes in the past, I remember when I first started advising our transfer students, I've had it in the past where some students was just like a shy point from that 3.0. And again, I'm going to discuss all of this in more detail throughout the presentation. But some students that are not meeting the 3.0 GPA requirement, or either not meeting the certain amount of credits in order to transfer with the scholarship, y'all can still transfer. There's other options like the Michigan Transfer Agreement, which those requirements are a little bit lower than what we would require for the scholarship. But the idea is that, you know, with the Detroit Promise, it's tuition free. And I want y'all to, you know, have your tuition covered and still be a part of the scholarship program. So I really want you to try to strive to get the required GPA and the required credits, so that you can get your tuition covered. So you can find this information on the Detroit Promise website, but still, if after today, if after the meeting that we're having, you have questions about what schools that you're able to transfer to and what are going to be the requirements, you can always reach out to me via email. Now, I kind of want to just do a refresher about the Detroit Promise Transfer Scholarship so that y'all are aware. Many of you already know like what the requirements are because it's pretty much the same requirements in order for you to qualify or be eligible for the scholarship as it was at your 2-year. So you know it's for Detroit residents. You got to have that Detroit address, have attended a Detroit high school at least within your last 2 years and graduated. This is a last dollar scholarship only. So this is also something to think about. You fill out your FAFSA, that's always required, especially if you are planning on receiving the Detroit Promise Scholarship. You got to do your FAFSA. The same way that you do it at your 2-year college, you're going to have to do it once you transfer to your 4-year. Do your FAFSA. FAFSA is going to pay out whatever it's supposed to pay out. And then that's when your Detroit Promise Scholarship is going to cover that remaining balance of your tuition. And again, it's tuition based only. So I know that some of these schools that y'all are interested in transferring to, they actually have dorms. They call it room and board. So they have dormitories and they have meal plans. Now, many of y'all know that, again, the Detroit Promise is tuition based only, so it's not going to cover anything outside of your tuition at these transfer schools except for room and board. Something to consider, you know. Are you planning on living on campus once you transfer, or are you just going to be planning on, you know, just taking the online classes? That's something that you should be thinking about as you're preparing and planning your transfer to one of your transfer schools. Another thing to take into consideration is the expiration date. So that kind of depends on the school. So once you actually transfer out with the Detroit Promise Scholarship, depending on what school it is, we're just going to throw Wayne State University out there. You have to be done within 2 years. So it's going to cover 2 fall semesters and 2 winter semesters. That's 2 years. It does not cover any summer classes. So yeah, that's something else. Take that into consideration. Just be aware of that. But yeah, there is a time frame on some of these schools, and I'll just kind of go back on the previous slide. Some of them know, like Alma College and Albion College, they will, you know, provide the Detroit Promise Scholarship through graduation. But say, for example, like Madonna University, Michigan Tech, it's only going to be covering the last 2 years. Now, I will throw this out here as, you know, just something to keep in mind. I don't want y'all to really be dependent on it or, you know, expecting it. But say for some students who are a part of these programs where it's a little bit more extensive, like nursing, and maybe you do need like another semester to kind of take a couple of more classes that you have left, you can appeal for additional funding for the Detroit Promise, but that is, it's not promised. And again, I don't want y'all to, you know, be like, oh yeah, like, oh, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, like in this last semester, it's okay, I can just appeal. No, the idea is get done within 2 years, and on a case-by-case basis. You know, if we need to work something out, we can figure something out for y'all. But yeah, expiration date, something to pay attention to. Try to be done within 2 years, depending on what school you go to. So now I want to start jumping into like a step-by-step with y'all. So this is kind of like a map that I think that if transfer students followed this, it would help them to have a somewhat smoother transition as they're transferring from their 2 years to their 4 years. And the first one is, of course, to research and decide. Now you can see on the slide here, I have this in bold red lettering, to plan at least a year in advance. And why do I say a year in advance is because if any of my students is here, Langston is here, but any of my students, they know when I coach them, I am constantly advocating for doing things ahead of time and just not waiting until the last minute. When you wait until the last minute, it's a potential to run into all kind of pitfalls. And so some students will be completing like their last semester at their 2 year and they say, oh, like I want to transfer. And then they're trying to apply. Then they're trying to get accepted. And then they're trying to learn more about the Detroit Promise Transfer Scholarship, or they're trying to do their FAFSA, or they're trying to pick a major, or they're, so it's just so many different components. In order for you to ensure that you have a smooth transition, at least plan a year in advance, and that's going to start with researching and deciding. So as we discussed, like in the first slide, you want to know, like, what school are you actually interested in transferring to? So I typically have these conversations with students who reach out to me via email, and they're wanting to know, well, what school is going to be the best for my program that I'm interested in, or, if you plan on living on campus, what is that going to look like for you? Have you gone to or considered like any campus tours? Or what is the culture like? You have to take all of that into consideration when you're deciding on the school that you want to go to. The next thing is going to be your program or your area of study. That's also something that's going to be important, because depending on when you are actually getting ready to graduate and transfer, more than likely there's an application deadline. So in the past, I've worked with students who were going into like the nursing program, and there's actually an application deadline for the nursing school that they have to have that application submitted to in order to get accepted, so that once they transfer, they're already in the program. And sometimes too, they have their own required GPA. So you see why it's so important to start researching at least a year in advance, because all of this stuff may come up and you just want to make sure that you're prepared. So definitely start thinking about what are you going to be studying? What's going to be your major? Is there an application deadline for it? And is there a specific GPA? The next thing is to think about is what semester are you going to be planning to transfer to? Now, I told y'all previously, please think about this a year in advance. If you are thinking about what semester you want to transfer to, then that needs to be in advance. So, because you got to be prepared. Also, too, the same thing with living off of campus, or are you living on campus? So start thinking about some of that. Like I said, I've coached or advised some students to the point where they actually started going to campus tours, visiting the campus. Again, what is the culture going to be like? Can you picture yourself there? And what are the goals that you're trying to do throughout your transfer process? So that's step one. Now, step two is going to be the plan, right? Because you've already decided on the school that you want to transfer to. You know what program that you're going to be going into, and you know what semester. You know when you're going to be graduating. Now you did your research. Now it's actually time to start planning. The first thing that you want to do in this planning stage is you want to meet with your academic advisor. Again, at least 1 to 2 years prior to transferring. The reason why you want to have this consistent and tight communication with your academic advisor is because you need to know what classes are transferable. Again, that's going to be more so particularly if you're going into like a certain program. So if you're studying nursing, if you're studying business administration, what classes are you currently taking at OCC or at Macomb? Which of those classes are actually going to transfer to Oakland University? Because again, they all don't offer the same courses. So that's something that you should be having a discussion with your academic advisor. The next thing is to discuss your academic standing, right? Because you need to make sure that you're meeting those Detroit Promise transfer GPA and credit requirements. Now, sometimes students will just kind of, take their classes and they're like, okay, like I'm doing a good job. But then during that final semester, they trying to work extra hard with a little bit of wiggle room, versus if they would have worked, periodically throughout like an academic school year to try to work towards bringing that GPA up. That's a lot of more time than trying to do it in a single semester. So you should be paying attention to your progress every semester, even like right now. Make sure that you go into your instructor office hours. Make sure, like, if you at a C right now in one of your classes, how much more work do you need to do to bring it up to a B before we start going out to Thanksgiving break? So these are all the things that I discuss with my students. You just need to be actively aware of what your academic standing is, so that by the time you're in your final semester before graduating and transferring, you're good to go. You ain't got to stress yourself out to try to get that 3.0 GPA or those 58 credits. You're good to go with that. Don't have to worry about it. The next thing is going to be to speak with an admissions representative. So this kind of goes with your research and with your planning. I mentioned before, I've advised some transfer students to even go on a campus tour. They go on a campus tour, they're automatically connected with an admissions representative at their transfer school who can kind of give them more in-depth information about the campus, about the culture, about the programs and campus tours. So that's also something that you can look into as you're in your planning stage. The next thing is going to be attending your coaching sessions regularly. You got to go to your coaching sessions. Going to your coaching sessions and staying connected with your campus coach is going to be another way to track your academic progress. It's how you're going to stay on track. And it's how you're going to stay connected with any updates, questions, or concerns as it pertains to your Detroit Promise Transfer Scholarship. So make sure that you're attending regularly. Pretty much in the planning stage, you just got to be on point. You got to be meeting with everybody, meet with your academic advisor, get in contact with the transfer school, stay connected with your campus coach, and then stay connected to me. So I have that as the last bullet point here, but I'm pretty much going to be your transfer advisor that you can reach out to. Again, most of y'all have already been connected to me via email. So throughout this time, throughout this transition, email me if you have any questions or concerns. So that's step 2. Now, step 3, right? So we done already got past step 1, which is you done the research, you know what school you're going to. Step 2, you're like, okay, I got this. I know what school I'm going to. I got the requirements that I need. Let me take this to academic advising. I'm gonna have this conversation with my campus coach, start planning some campus tours, so on and so forth. Now it's time to start taking action. First thing that you want to do, FAFSA. FAFSA is always important. That's always like the number one thing that you want to focus on once you're planning to either go to college or just to transfer. If you don't have the money to come out of pocket. Now, if you got the money to just, pay thousands and thousands of dollars for tuition, then you don't got to worry about FAFSA. But if that is not the case, FAFSA needs to always be the number one thing that you do when you are starting or continuing your college journey. Once you do your FAFSA application, you want to make sure that that transfer school is listed on there. I always tell my students, do FAFSA as soon as it opens, because with anything like with FAFSA or financial aid, you just never know the things that can come up. Sometimes the
Preach.
school, yeah, right. So like sometimes, the schools is constantly asking, okay, well, this is not enough information. We need this document, and you got to reach out to the IRS to get the data retrieval tools and all of this other stuff. It's just so much that goes into FAFSA. You want to make sure that this is something that you're working on ahead of time. So again, by the time you get to that point where it's time to pack your bags and transfer to your school, none of this, you're not going to run into any pitfalls if you do this in advance. The next thing is going to be the admissions application. So the admissions application is going to be you actually applying and getting accepted into the school. Now, this is also going to be important because, again, depending on what your program of study is going to be, there's deadlines. There may be deadlines depending on the program, which is why in the previous step 1 and 2, all of that should be researched. So if I am going to be in the business administration program, let me check to see, do they got a deadline? Or Like, is there something that I should be submitting before then or preparing for? So make sure that you get in contact with an admissions counselor for confirmation if you need to. Sometimes your academic advisors do have this information. So throughout that step 2 process of where you're actually planning it, you can have a conversation with your academic advisor, you know, like, okay, well, I want to transfer to Michigan Tech. You know, how do I submit the application, or is there a deadline? And sometimes they have that information on hand for y'all. Okay, now the next part is going to be to submit the scholarship form. Please don't submit this scholarship form until after you have completed your FAFSA, you're in the final semester of transferring, you met the GPA requirements, you know, you got your credits, you completed FAFSA, again, you know, you already got accepted to the school. The last step in step 3 for action is going to be to submit your Detroit Promise Scholarship form, right? These are going to be the 2 things that we're actually requiring for you to submit the scholarship form. It's going to be your acceptance letter and your college transcripts. Now, this is what I tell students. I try to tell my students to make this a practice. Please do not submit screenshots. You can 100% download these files, save it to a computer or your computer, and submit it along to your application. It's just professional. You don't have to worry about different departments backtracking and saying, well, this document is not readable. They need to trash this one and tell them to send us another one. You want to try to make sure that it's as clean as possible. So make sure that before you submit this Detroit Promise scholarship form, that you have your acceptance letter and your college transcripts, and that's going to be at your 2-year. It needs to make sure that your transcripts are meeting the Detroit Promise transfer requirements. So if you're transferring to Wayne State, that on your transcripts, it should say a 3.0 GPA and 58 or more earned credits earned. And then after that, you'll receive a follow-up email regarding next steps. So once you submit that Detroit Promise scholarship form, it's going to let you know that it's going directly over to your transfer school. And from there, it has to go through a final approval process by your college before you're actually awarded. And sometimes, I mean, depending on the school, that can take up to 3 weeks. I mean, we've seen it so far recently take longer than 3 weeks. So I just tell students to just be patient and remain in contact, remain in communication with your Detroit Promise team, your Detroit Promise transfer team, and also your financial aid office and representatives at your transfer school. So yeah, just pay attention to that. And now we're moving on to post-successful transfer. So y'all done did all of that. You done research, you planned, and then you took action. Now you're already at your transfer school. Kind of going back off of the previous slide, the last point of, I believe the last point was, yeah, your approval process. So while you're still going through that final approval process by your transfer school, you more than likely you're going to see a balance, right? Because you have to register for those classes. So some students do see that balance. Now, the good thing about your transfer school is you're not going to get dropped from your classes. So like some of the students that I coach right now at Schoolcraft College or even at Jackson College, if they don't have the balance paid within a certain amount of time, they actually start to get withdrawal automatically from their classes. You don't have to worry about that at your transfer school. So you can continue with classes as normal while your scholarship is waiting to be fully reviewed. You're not gonna get dropped. I know, you know, you get anxious once you see that balance and, you know, you keep getting these notifications like, you know, you gotta pay this and you gotta do this and do that. Don't worry about it. I know it's nerve-wracking, but like I said, stay in contact, in communication with your transfer team here at the Detroit Promise. And, you know, the people on the back end, we're going to make sure we work it out for you. Now, once you transfer, students ask this a lot too. We don't have currently any campus coaches at our transfer institutions. So some students are like, well, Serena, are you still gonna be, my campus coach once I transfer to, I don't know, like Oakland University or to Madonna? And unfortunately, no, we don't have any campus coaches. We only have campus coaches at our 2 years. But you will still have a Detroit Promise support system throughout those last 2 years at your transfer school, and that's going to be your university engagement manager, Kanisha Williams. So that's going to be your point of contact. No campus coach. Instead, a university engagement manager, Kanisha Williams, who is with the Detroit Promise, that's pretty much going to be answering your questions and your concerns throughout your experience at your transfer school. Another important thing, I'm bringing this up because I have seen this happen in the past once students have decided to transfer, and some students have reached out and they say, well, Serena, I just want to take a gap year. I want to take some time off. This is actually going to be listed in fine print on your scholarship form. So when you fill that out, it's going to tell you in the contract, you cannot have any gap years. You have to be done within 2 years. If you try to take a gap year or try to take a gap semester, you are automatically forfeiting the Detroit Promise Scholarship. You got to go straight through and through. 2 fall semesters, 2 winter semesters. Again, that's for some schools. Some of our other partnering schools like Albion College is through graduation. But for those of you who are going to our partnering institutions where you have to be done within the last 2 years, no gap years. All right. Now, the next thing is going to be in your contract is making sure that you maintain the scholarship GPA, right? You got to maintain your scholarship. So you got to make sure that you're following those GPA requirements. And then overall, like I just tell students, be persistent and consistent, right? You only got 2 more years and you're getting your bachelor's degree. So you really just got to hustle, throughout your coaching sessions with your campus coach. A lot of the tools that you've taken away is advocating for yourself and taking initiative and pretty much just not being afraid to ask questions. Take all of those skill sets that you have been working on throughout your 2 years and take it with you to your transfer school. And that's going to help you be persistent and consistent. And before you know it, you'll be wrapping up those 2 years with a bachelor's degree. Now, we do have some contacts for you guys, if you ever have any questions or concerns for you to reach out to at each of our partnering institutions. And we'll be able to share that, once you make a decision and, once you apply and get accepted and, you have questions about the program that you're going into, you'll be able to reach out to some of these folks. But now we pretty much in the last 20 minutes or so. And so I want to open up the floor for any questions or concerns that anybody has.
Yeah, a question I had was, let's say you meet the GPA requirements, but you don't meet the credit hour requirements. Like, does it have to be like 58 for example, like Wayne State? Like, it has to be.
Yep, it has to be the earned credits. Those are going to be the 2 main requirements in order to get the Detroit Promise Scholarship. Got to get that 3.0 GPA, and then you have to have 58 or more earned credits. If you do not have those 2 requirements, then you won't qualify for the scholarship. Now, I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I have seen it, in the past where a student was just like a point shy off, or, they was like a credit shy from, the requirements for the Detroit Promise. And that's not to say like, you cannot transfer, you can still transfer. I kind of mentioned the MTA, the Michigan Transfer Agreement, to where if you are not getting the scholarship requirements, you can go on the MTA agreement and still transfer. The only difference is that instead of having a secured, guaranteed scholarship, you're now going to have to find other means to get that tuition paid for, because now you don't qualify for the Detroit Promise because you didn't meet those GPA or earn credit requirements. In the past, like I said, I've advised students with trying to find different ways to get other scholarships because they're like, well, Serena, I got a 2.96. Like, can y'all, work something out? I'm just a point or so shy from that 3.0. And again, unfortunately, if you're not meeting those requirements, we can't, but you can still transfer. And then we just start seeking out other scholarship opportunities. And it's possible. Either way, it's possible. But, as a campus coach, a longtime campus coach with the Detroit Promise, my goal for y'all is to not have to pay for tuition. So ultimately, I really do want you to try to meet those requirements so that you don't have to come out of pocket, or so that it doesn't have to be stressful trying to apply and interview for other scholarships.
Gotcha. Okay. And then another question I had was let's say, for example, right, like we're getting closer and closer to the part where we're going to transfer over to Wayne State. Would you not be eligible anymore if your address changed?
Now, that's a good question. I don't think that would matter, because the point is to be considered for the Detroit Promise, you have to have a Detroit residence address at the time of even being eligible for the scholarship. But say, for example, like and Kristen is here too, and I can try to, if Kristen don't know, I can try to write this question down for Kanisha, and ask Kanisha once we have like our meetup. But what I'm thinking is if you are already eligible and approved for the Detroit Promise with that residency, then yeah, if you end up moving, I don't think it should matter. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's correct, Serena.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So at the time of the application, long as the residency is Detroit, you'll be perfectly fine.
Yes, yep. And Kristen just confirmed it. So yeah, y'all should be good. Just make sure. And again, I mean, y'all are here. So everybody that's here should automatically be Detroit Promise eligible, as far as, having the resident address, and then also the graduating and attending at least within the last 2 years at any Detroit public high school. So
Got it. Okay, perfect.
that was a good question, Raheem.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we got some questions in the chat. So Lyric said, will we still be a part of this program even if we don't meet the requirements for the scholarship? And that's a good question too. I mean, y'all will always be Detroit Promise family. You know what I'm saying? Like, some students that already transferred, like, say, for example, I have one student that I was mentioning to y'all before. She wasn't meeting the GPA requirements. So although she was a Detroit Promise student during the time that I was coaching her at her 2-year, she wasn't eligible, or she didn't qualify for the Detroit Promise transfer scholarship. I still talk to her. Like, she just reached out to me and asked me a question not that long ago, but you'll always be connected with the Detroit Promise. You've built the community here, you built the relationship with your campus coach. So you'll always be connected in that sense. But the only thing is the technical part of it, which is receiving the tuition-free scholarship. If you don't meet the requirements, you just don't get the scholarship. But Lyric, you are my student. So you just reach out to me. My students know, like, after they already transfer, I still be talking to y'all, you can always reach out, ask for a recommendation letter, ask for a reference letter, even just to ask questions. Like, I'll always try to stay in contact with students. So you can always feel free to hit us up. And then Kirsten said, could you please share? Okay. Yes. Yep. So y'all, I sent it in the email reminder that I sent out early this morning, but we do have a YouTube channel. And, the meeting that we had today is actually going to be pre-recorded. So hopefully I will have it uploaded to our channel by tonight. But yeah, you can always go on there and you can review old Detroit Promise transfer sessions. But if you missed any important information, or if you happen to come in like a little bit later, I'll make sure that I have the video posted so that you can go back and review it. And then Kirsten also said, are there any requirements for a change in major? That's another good question. Now, the thing is you have to think about your contract for your Detroit Promise Transfer Scholarship. If it says be done within 2 years, but you transfer and now you taking a gap year and now you changing your major, or you taking a gap semester and you just kind of bouncing all over the place, that is going to cause some changes to the scholarship. Now, I want to say you actually would forfeit it, but I'm not sure. This is a question that I'm actually going to write down and follow up with y'all later. Was what I did the same thing in our last transfer session. So some of the questions I'm going to check in with somebody about and then follow up with y'all like after this session to confirm that answer. But that's why I discussed, throughout the planning process. So in step one, you're researching. You're seeing what school you want to go to, what programs do they offer. And in step two, you're actually planning and taking action and things like that. This is to avoid all of that. So when you get there, it really shouldn't be like, oh, like, I want to take a gap year, or I just want to change my major, I don't want to do this anymore. Your mind, you should be like on go. As soon as you're done and graduating with your 2 year, go there, do your last 2 years, get your bachelor's degree, and be done. You don't want to try to do anything that is going to cause you to no longer qualify for the scholarship. So this is a big question mark, but I'm kind of leaning towards you actually forfeit it if you start changing it and start making all of these changes when you only have a 2 year contract. So that's why I make sure, as I'm advising y'all, like, just research and know what you're going to do. Time is just going by so fast. You're only going to be able to do it within those last 2 years. But yeah, just kind of know what you have planned before you actually make that transition.
Yep, I agree with
Got
that,
it.
Serena.
Yeah. Well, it was nice
Got it.
speaking to you
But
guys.
I have a question too.
Okay.
Say it does say you have to apply by this time, but your school can only get you your 2 year degree by another time. Would we still apply or no?
So if I'm understanding that question correctly, Langston, I believe you're asking what is the time frame from when you submit the college application to when you are accepted, or I might have to
It's
clarify.
kind of like my situation, Miss Saria, where Jackson only graduates in May,
Mhm,
but I need to get everything done by fall by
mhm,
falls by fall. That's what
mhm.
I'm talking about. Basically, would I still be eligible if that time frame doesn't match up with each other?
Oh yeah, I mean commencement at Jackson happens in May, so technically around that time. So within your last semester, Langston, I think you should be done at Jackson at around like what, like April, May, or something like that. It's
Yes.
probably April, and then commencement is actually in May. That's when you walk across the stage. But in April, during that last month of when you're actually getting ready to graduate, you already obtained the GPA. You already obtained the credits that you need in order to transfer. So during that final month, you submitted the application, you applied to your transfer school, you applied to the Detroit Promise Scholarship, um, and you did your FAFSA and all of that. The only thing you're doing is just waiting until May to walk across the stage, and then you just take the semester to save up money. Some students save up money, and then once the fall semester rolls around, they just kind of jumping in it. I feel like I answered your question.
Yeah, you
Did
did, but
I probably?
I just wanted to make certain that I
Yeah.
understood what I was asking, you know?
Yeah. And something too, kind of pertaining to that is the application deadline for certain programs. So if you are like, again, a nursing student, or if you're a business going into a business administration program at your transfer school, is there an application deadline for that? So say, for example, if you are in your last year of graduating, but the nursing program has a deadline in March. One of the things that I learned, say for example, at Wayne State, their admissions counselor said that students can still apply to the nursing program with just their unofficial transcript. So if you have a deadline for the program, the application for the program that you're interested in going into, and it's actually before you graduate, submit the unofficial transcript. And then once you finish out that final month of your last semester, you get the final transcript, and then that's when you can turn that in, and then it'll be finalized. So say, for example, when I graduated from Eastern Michigan University in April of 2023, I didn't have my final transcript yet because I had applied and was waiting to get accepted into Oakland University for my PhD program. So I was only able to submit in the unofficial transcript while I was still finishing out that last month, because they want to make sure, like, did she get the GPA? Like, did she meet all of the requirements before we actually approve it? So once I crossed the stage, I got my official transcript, I was able to turn it in and still be able to get accepted on time. So it's possible. You just have to make sure that you're paying attention to any admissions deadlines or opening dates or anything like that. And, just make sure that you stand on track pretty much, and just submit your unofficial transcript until you graduate and then resubmit the official one.
Right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, any other questions? I think, okay. Lyric said, so if we want to go to a college that's not on this, oh, I think Kristen answered that. If we want to go to a college that's not on this list, will we be cut off from the scholarship? And Kristen said, if you choose to go to a school not listed, you will not be eligible for Detroit Promise funding. And that's correct. It has to be one of the schools that we partner with in order for you to be considered for the Detroit Promise tuition-free scholarship. If it's not a school that we partner with, it's fine, right? We don't want students to come out of pocket, because that's what our scholarship represents, to eliminate some of those barriers for y'all. But like I said, I worked with and advised all kind of students in the past. Like, I had a student, instead of her transferring to one of our partnering schools, she actually went down south. And, she's like, well, I know I don't have the Detroit Promise scholarship if I'm going to be going down south. What else can I do? And we kind of looked into like other scholarships, other opportunities for her to be able to cover, the remaining balance of her tuition. So it's possible. I just want y'all to, try to consider easier options and not have to come out of pocket. Okay, does it really matter what college we graduate from, or is it that only if you want to further and get your PhD? I think I understand this question, Lyric. Would you be able to clarify for me a little bit more? Like, do jobs care about that? Oh, girl, no. They don't. It's, to be honest, and Lyric, like I said, some of my students are here. Y'all know like what I'm about when I'm coaching students. I tell y'all like straight up the truth. Jobs, for the most part, it's really about experience. Some jobs, yeah, you do have to have a degree for. You do have to have like a master's degree or a PhD, but it just kind of depends. But for the most part, it's about that experience. Now, if you want to see, I was going to go into a PhD program because I don't know, like I just thought that it was something that I should do, like continue my education, but I ended up not doing it because I recognized that I really didn't need it. I mean, once you get that master's degree or even with your bachelor's degree, there's so much that you can do, and it's so much experience and opportunities that you can have. For the most part, it doesn't really matter if you get your PhD or not, as long as you have met the minimum requirements to be qualified for the position that you're actually going for. But that was a good question, though. And I love to talk about stuff like that throughout our coaching sessions. So, yeah, we might talk about that again in November. But did anybody have any other questions, concerns, thoughts, or comments? Going once, going twice.
So,
Langston, I don't think you have anything. If y'all have something, you already know. Like, I have my email here. Again, some of my students are here, so they just have direct contact with me. But for those of you that you're connected with Christina or with Marlon or with Delphine, Charisma, and dang, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, but if y'all are connected, with your campus coaches, then you automatically have a way of getting in contact with me. Throughout this transfer process, I want you to send me an email if you have any questions or any concerns, but I am here to help to make sure that you have a smooth transition. So just reach out to me, if you have any questions or if you want to reserve it for later, just let me know. But it's Friday, y'all. It's 4 o'clock. Please enjoy your weekend. I want y'all to be safe. And yes, we will talk again soon. Okay?
all right.
All right. Take care, everybody. It was good speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for hosting.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.